Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Logan with West Desert Wheeler. Welcome back to this series where I am talking about our North vs. South Utah RC Crawling Championship. And yes, we need to come up with a shorter name for the next series. But the basics of it, myself, I am running the Southern Utah portion of it. We're going to run 3 competitions in 3 months. In the north, that is going to be Luke in charge of the northern competitions. He is running 3 competitions in 3 months. And then we're going to have a final competition where the north and south come together and they compete against each other to claim a state champion in Utah with RC crawling. Should be a great time. So we have 2 different classes in these events, and we are running class 2 style, pretty loose rules. We're not doing real strict Sorka rules. And then we've got unlimited. So unlimited is literally from an MOA to a class 1 if you want, that's totally fine. But I am running my 4-wheel steer axial Capra that also has a Vanquish transmission with a Vanquish dig unit in it. So pretty sweet car. It's also got Vanquish axles on there. It's sitting right back here. It is my Tiger Capra is what I refer to it as. I've got some other videos on here as well if you guys want to check out just the car. But this one, I'm going to be talking about the competition. In specific, it is going to be the North Round 2, and it is going to be my unlimited runs. I've already done my Class 2 runs, if you guys want to check that out. Again, there's a video out there. This one is for the unlimited cars. I'm going to throw in a little bit of footage of a couple of my buddies, as well as my brother and family running my car and their cars in the event, and we'll see how they approach some of the gates versus how I did. Should be a great time. Before we get rolling, I definitely want to thank our sponsors of the event, which is going to be Rock Pirates RC, Reefs RC, Joe Ropes, we've got Scumbag RC, 816 Garage, D's Company, myself, and a few others who threw in some products too, and I greatly appreciate all the support from everybody who helped contribute to the event. We do raffles at each event where we give out to anybody who is a registered driver. That way, if you're not on the podium, you know what, maybe you can grab something to help improve your truck and get you to that podium in the next event. So let's get to it and see how my Tiger Capra did in the first course. Here we are taking off from the start box, rolling out, and we're gonna head up into gate number 1. Gate number 1, the biggest thing here is you just wanna keep your belly clear of the little notch and get your belly off the rocks, but that does push you very close to the low side cone. Using that rear steer to try and get the belly out of the rocks while keeping the fronts away from the gate. A little bit tricky, had to fight for some traction there, but I will tell you this, that the gates here, as we're already moving on to 3, the rock is super grippy and almost to a fault. You can get jammed up in these overhangs like this, and your car will just get locked into these lines. So trying to use that rear steer to push up on top of that wall instead of drive up and around. As it turns out, I was able to get my front end, put it in dig, pull the front end across, and then turn back into that wall. Car's getting torque twisted through there. Good fun corner here. That's the kind of line that I would run if I was just out there having a good time. Got through 3 nice and clean. Skipped a few gates. Here we are on 6. This one is basically, if you know how to climb a curb, you know how to get across this. Unfortunately, I start my turn on the front just a little too early before I get my rears up on the wall, and I should have had more rear pointed the driver, but end up bellied out and it rotates the car a little bit earlier than I wanted it to. And I don't have a lot of room trying to get that rear up on that back right ledge, and as my tire slips off that ledge, my front comes back and just clips that cone. But I hold it together. I don't just throw it in reverse because that would be counted as a reverse in this. So I continue to crab walk my way around that ledge and get up and over without using an extra reverse. Gate 7 looked difficult as I pre-walked the course, and I could see where the line was supposed to be. Is just if the car was going to do it or not. And I sit here and fight this for quite a bit of time, and going back and forth with the rear steer to try and get it up these ledges. The fronts I kind of left in the same direction most of the time. I don't feel like there's anything different to be done there. And as I finally start to get some traction, the car pulls up. I just bump that arrow cone, and the car doesn't want anything to do with it. Unfortunately, just unable to get up and over this without clipping the cone. And right here, things are getting pretty ugly. Again, trying to save myself the reverse, but as the front tires come up, I throw it in reverse and I back up far enough that I can get away from the wall. If you're gonna take a reverse of 3 inches, it doesn't matter if you go 15 inches, it's 1 reverse. So get out of there while you can. This is a bonus line, coming up and crabbing into it, trying to get as high as possible. And then I grab front dig to suck the front end down into those rocks. And as I'm under throttle, I hit four-wheel drive and pull the car up the climb. It was a pretty steep one. This car has a decent wheelbase, around 13 inches, so that helped make it a little bit easier for me. This was an interesting gate as it's a very strong side hill, and they added a boundary on that ledge. So if you slip off the edge, you're getting a gate for the boundary, and if you hit the cone, that's considered a gate as well. So you definitely need to side hill through here, and wouldn't you know it, Mother Nature provided a bush to be right in your way for you as well. Definitely part of the plan with the course designing there. Luke not taking it easy on us on this one. Definitely still possible though as we work our way through. My car is on 2.2 inch wheels and tires. They're Pitbull Braven tires, and they're just not very tall. So I do like that setup on here, so it helps it side hill pretty well. Once you get real crazy with the tall 2.2s, your car really starts to lose side hill capabilities. Gate number 9 and 10 are actually very similar. They're these little side hills that you got to drop into a crack and get your way crossed over and up. Going from 9 right over up to 10, same thing. Gonna climb up this one. This one's a little bit bigger, deeper crack, and I'm gonna use my rear to push over and keep my car more straight up and down instead of trying to side hill through here. Taking some time and getting through 10 nice and clean. Thanks to my brother for judging me on the run there and taking a GoPro right to the face. So pretty good run overall. I showed the gates that I did hit, unfortunately hit 6 and 7, but feeling pretty good about that run. Overall, can't complain. Even as I watch the footage, I can really ridicule myself at this point, but at the time I felt like I drove it as best I could, so I don't know if there's really anything else that I was going to change on that run. Clearly I can't do it now, so pretty happy with how I ended up driving that under the pressure that I was under. Real quick, let's take a look at my brother rolling his Capra through here. I actually built this car previous to my Tiger Capra, and he mentioned that he was interested in one, and so I got him set up with this one. This is gate number 4. I didn't show this in my run as a fun little side hill carousel, but like I was mentioning, those rocks are so grippy, and with these Proline G8 tires, they just lock into that rock. Makes it really difficult to get through those cracks and whatnot unless you're balanced and driving on top of them. Here he is. He's going to cut down across over to gate number 5. Gate number 5 has this little rib right in the middle of the gate where you could easily diff out with your axles. However, with these portals and these big tires, not a problem. My brother using great control of his rear steer there to get his car nice and clean through that gate. So I was the first competitor to run that course, and then I helped judge some people get them through, and then I moved on to the next course, helped judge some people on course number 2, but I hadn't driven it yet. And then my buddy Tyson, who had traveled up from southern Utah up to northern Utah, he's also running a rear steer Capra, and I've competed with him a few times, and he's one of my buddies, and I like to, you know, give him a hard time to see who can do better in the event. So on course number 1, I ended up with 11 points, I believe, and wouldn't you know it, Tyson also got 11 points on his run. We hit different gates and did different things to affect that score, but we ended up tied after course 1. There's only 2 courses here, so I've got to hold it together, and a little bit more pressure there to try and beat Tyson on course number 2. Let's see how this plays out. After my run, I'm going to show you some highlights of Tyson's run and talk about who ended up on top. So here we go, dropping out of the start gate and into one of my favorite types of obstacles. This is a long crack. I love going out and driving these types of obstacles. Keeping the car balanced is what I like to do. This car really excels at that with the rear steer. And I might need to throw in here that I am filming myself while using rear steer, which is a two-handed control for me. I use a Flysky GT5. There's a dial on the top of the controller. So I use my left hand for throttle and front steering and my right hand for the rear steer, and hold my GoPro with my right hand as well. Got through gate number 1 nice and clean. After 2, it's a hard side hill with a U-turn up into another crack, and this one's got a little bit bigger hole in there. So I need to turn out at the top at the fronts, but I'm going to let the rears track in that crack, because if it dropped in the hole, your car would definitely end up upside down. And after 3, there's no room up here. You got to get turned and headed downhill, which is a very steep hill. As the car starts to come down here, pay attention. All 4 tires start sliding down this rock. And if I didn't give it enough throttle, it was just going to front flip over. So gassed it out just a little bit. Gate number 4 is tricky. It's a very steep drop. The car slides down into the bottom of this crack here, and then I've got to get the front end up. So I throw it and dig. It pops the front tire up and over, helps the car rotate, using the rear steer to drop down into another big drop where it's crazy steep. Again, you can flip over forwards if you're not driving it careful. Grab, dig to apply a rear brake essentially, and get through it nice and clean. Here's gate 5. I'm crabbing over into the direction that I'm trying to get 3 of the tires up the ledge at the same time. and unfortunately the front end starts pushing across this, and I'm getting dangerously close to 5, so I grab a dig, it pulls the car, and I basically end up centered in the gate. But I end up bellied up on this breakover. It's hard to tell from this angle, but it's a really sharp breakover. So I'm trying to use the rear steer to give me some extra traction, and the only way the car's getting forward progress is when I'm carving hard left and the rears are pinned out passenger. Just able to squeeze through there without touching the cone, but that was dangerously close. If the tires let up at all, I would have hit 5. On our way over to 6, it's a nasty boulder climb into a really ugly side hill, and things get a little bit out of shape for me right here. So pull the front end up using all 4 tires pointed uphill to get the car to push in that direction. You can see it teeter-tottering there, a little bit of forward weight bias pulls it down, and my right rear is going to fall off this rock, which I'm afraid is going to pull the front left tire way up off the wall, and it certainly is. That tire is in the air right now, and I'm trying to figure out what to do. I threw it in dig and then took it out, and luckily just a little bit of throttle, I was able to get that through there, watch the rear, scoop the cone with the rear steer, and get out of there. Gate number 7, this one does not go well for me. Get up there, and as I watched this, I needed to have my rears more directly under the car. As I pulled up on there, I did a front burn to get the front end over to clear the gate, but the rear stayed in place and got me on a bad side hill. Trying to wiggle my rear steer to settle the suspension here, but it's just not happening for me, and unfortunately the car just falls off the rock and clips the gate. I don't want to take an upright if I don't have to, so I'm trying to floor it with all 4 tires pointed in the ground to try and push that cage into the rock and upright myself, and I end up completely turtled, and no matter what I can do at this point, I'm going to have to take an upright. Plop the car onto all 4 tires, had to pull my way out of some weeds, and now I'm headed off for the bonus line. The bonus line, I had a plan to drive all the way up and around instead of trying to climb. My car doesn't have a winch, and this climb did not look possible without an RC winch. So for whatever reason, I was like, okay, I'll just try the bonus climb on the way up here, using the rear steer to try and get squared up to this, but this ledge is way too tall for this car. It's not going to happen. I really need a winch to get up and over this. So as I'm working the rears, the front left is up in the air. I'm trying to dig, it's not happening. I take a reverse and I head off into my normal plan. Now that little bit of time makes a big difference here at the end of my run. I turn my car around and actually back down into here because, as you can see Dustin down there, where I'm backing up to, it's just a ledge that rolls off completely vertical, and it's a big drop, so you do not want to lose that. So right here, using all 4 tires to crab across the rock, and I'm going to stop right there because there's nowhere else to go from behind. Trying to go forward, the car is only going where the rear tires are pointed because that's where all the weight's sitting. So I do a front burn, and then I start turning my rears to try and help the car rotate in that front burn. I like where I'm at lined up for the gate, so I put it back in 4-wheel drive and start heading up into this gate. Got to get very close to this bonus cone here, dipping the tires through the cracks, working my way through, got to love all 4-wheel steering, and then I realize, oh man, I've got to get up and out of that climb that I just backed down, which is not an easy task either. Luckily this rock's super grippy, with the rear steer able to pick the exact line I'm after, pop my way up and over and get myself a clean bonus, despite having to grab a reverse originally. Right here, this is an ugly crack. You got to pull your way up and over, and as I go up, I'm about to hit the aero cone, so I turn, and that takes the tire on the low side and pulls it off the rock because of the angle I was on, and I end up upside down in that ditch, which is really unfortunate. I didn't see it in real time, but now that I watched the video in slow motion, I can easily see what went on there, and I don't know how I could have avoided that other than just lining up differently in the drop. Coming down gate number 9, we've got a boundary line at the back of this, and we definitely don't want to bump into that, and it does a big, nice 90-degree corner. Cool V-crack drop, and as I drop in here, I'm trying to crab over because I don't want to do a full 180. My car won't handle that. What I should have done is just backed up the hill, but I try and traverse this crack. Doesn't happen. Cross the boundary line, roll all the way down that crack, and now I'm stuck in some tumbleweeds here. But at this point, time is getting low. I'm at less than a minute remaining. Trying to get up this climb, and unfortunately the traction is not there to crawl it. So as I'm working my way up, there's a branch that was going to bump me. I didn't want to flip over backwards again. Judge calls out 38 seconds left, and I am nowhere near gate number 10. I need to cover some ground to get there, and I got to get through the obstacle of gate number 10. I take the reverse, I floor it, I jump up the rock, get the rear steer pointed around to try and help me rotate. The car is not climbing uphill. Got to get the rears pointed uphill to get it going. Big climb here, still trying to cover ground, not a lot of time left, Judge calls out 11 seconds left. Got to get around this corner over to gate number 10. This is where that bonus cone time went. I really could have used it to get through this gate. Because I was so rushed, I drove that rear tire up onto that crack, and it flipped me off that ledge, which is really unfortunate because if I wouldn't have done that, if I would have had time to watch those rears, I could have kept it off the wall and the car would have done it. I went and drove that again right after I ran out of time there, and I did clean that gate number 10. It was possible to do with my car. I just ran out of time, unfortunately. So me and Tyson were tied after course 1. I just ran that course. I hit some gates and I DNF'd at gate 10, which is a gate, and things did not go perfectly for me. Let's check out some highlights of how Tyson did on his run. Again, rear steer Capra. Tyson's a great driver. He's got a little bit different setup than me. He's running 4.76 inch tall, 1.9 tires, the Proline flat irons, and he's also got Team Garage Hack brass positive offset wheels to really narrow up his car. So it's not as wide as mine is, but his fit through gates better. Mine will side hill better. Let's see how this goes for Tyson. Tyson running up the crack right up to gate number 1. This really is a better view of how steep this is, and it's a real obstacle here. So Tyson's back tire fell off the wall. He's no longer balanced in the crack. He's kind of trapped in there with his rear tire. And with the rear tire all sidewall pushed up against that ledge there, he loses control of his car basically. So he's trying to get out of there without hitting the cone, driving that rear tire way up on the wall. He's getting closer and closer to this arrow cone. And quite honestly, if he continues on this line, he's going to hit the gate. So there he goes, takes a small reverse, gets those rears in a better spot, pushes the front end up, nice and slow, controlled, good driving, and good choice to take the back up instead of just hitting the gate. Skip past 2, it went clean for him. And then we drop down 3 where you got to do that U-turn and head up the crack. He decides to drive up the shoulder of that rock instead of dropping into the crack, which I'm giving him a hard time for because I know that he could have done it. It wouldn't have been an issue for him. He's just trying a little bit different line here for him. The only interesting thing is that I climbed that crack pretty much with ease. I know that he's capable of doing it, so I think it's interesting that he watched me do it nice and easy, and he didn't choose to go for that line. Gets turned around, drops off of that drop there. Here's where things don't go so smooth for him. We got gate number 4, and this really highlights the ability of my Vanquish transmission with dig unit versus the axial Capra dig unit. He doesn't have as good of control of grabbing dig and disengaging dig like my Vanquish products does. And so right here, all he needs to do is grab a front burn, but I don't think his car would allow him to do it. The micro servo as the dig in that car just isn't quite up to par for what he needed here, and unable to get it in front wheel drive only. He takes a reverse, but unfortunately that squares him up at the bottom of that crack, and this is not where you need to be for this gate. So now he's run out of options. He can no longer back up the hill. He clips gate number 4 and the arrow cone on the way down. That's only counted as 1 gate in our competitions. Side hilling through gate number 6, this is where my car really struggled, but with his narrow car, the brass wheels, gets in here. He did roll off of this on his first attempt. He didn't hit the gate, but he got back around and got lined up better on the second attempt. Got real nice and high there and cleans gate 6, makes it look better than I did when I came through here. So great driving there, Tyson. Definitely good work, man. Over to gate number 7. This is where I rolled over and ended up having to take an upright. And his car just sticks to the rocks like glue, drives through, made it look easy yet again. Here we go, gate number 9. This is where I rolled down the crack. And he did not get balanced well dropping into this. You can see how steep that wall is over there. Pops his car out, trying to use the servo to wiggle it down to the bottom. And you can see there he is trapped in the bottom of the crack. And I notice here as I'm spotting for him, his front passenger tire is no longer rotating when he's applying throttle to the wheels and tires. So something's gone wrong on that front right. You can see it there. It's not rotating, and he's only got 1 gate left to get to the finish line. Trying to get across this without running through the boundary. And unfortunately that front right's just locked up. Nothing's happening for him. He's trying to get the car rotated, just trying to fight through it. And unfortunately, having a mechanical failure here, ends up taking a roll across the boundary line, and his front wheel and tire completely fall off. So unfortunately, it did not go well for him to continue trying that, and I ended up beating him in the competition. However, that's not how I wanted to beat Tyson. I wanted to beat him heads up. So as we move into the future competitions, Southern Utah round 2, definitely looking forward to competing with him there with the rear steer Capras as well as Class 2, and then of course at all the other future events. So great driving, Tyson. I appreciate that you continued to fight through even though your car had a mechanical failure. I didn't want to beat you that way. I wanted you to have as good of a run as you were capable of doing. But great work there, dude. So I hope you guys enjoyed the content. Definitely check out my channel and get subscribed if you like this style of video. I would greatly appreciate it. I do have affiliate links down below to some of the products available on my Axial Capra. If you buy any of them through there, it helps support my channel. And until next time, guys, one more thank you to all of our event sponsors: Rock Pirates RC, Reefs RC, Joe Ropes, 816 Garage, D's Company, Scumbag RC, and anyone else who helps contribute. Thank you guys very much. I really appreciate all the companies willing to support these events. It really means a lot, and it's been a ton of fun. We will see you guys in the next one. Keep the rubber side down.